What's good, mother truckers? Welcome to Strangle School. I'm Josh Moody. I got my buddy Mike here, and today we're going to be continuing on with our seatbelt side control series. Today we're going to be talking about what happens if I'm able to get a hold of his wrist and pin it to his body. We're going to be transitioning into a key lock and looking at some stuff we can do from that position. When I get myself to seatbelt side control in one of those 1,000 ways I could have created back exposure, I lock that hand. If at any moment I see the opportunity to reach out and snatch his top hand, I'm going to do that. I want the line of his wrist for this one. A half hand grip. So two of my fingers are going to his hand. My middle finger will go right to his wrist bone. And I want to grab 2 fingers on his forearm and 2 fingers on his hand. And then I bring his hand into his chest. So now the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to look to loop my elbow around his head. I'm going to bring my other elbow up on top of his body. I'm going to step my leg up. I'm going to turn my knee to the mat. And I'm pinching his head super tight. I'm going to bring his elbow to my chest. I'm actually going to bring my elbow, or my chest to his elbow. I'm going to sit up nice and tall. Now, most of the time, your partner's going to try and grab onto something. You can grab your own hand. Go for it. Okay? So I don't want to just try and like lift, lift, lift. I definitely don't want to try and go that way and try and like Kimura in right away. It's going to be too hard. Because even if he's not locking, go ahead, unlock. And his hand's just on his belly. Look, if I just try and like, I can't push through his body. And I can try and like come up. And that's pretty good. But what I really want is I want to fake him out. So instead of going that way, to my right, I'm going to go left. So I rip his hand away from his body, even if his hands are locked. Instead of going the direction that he's ready for, I rip his hands apart. I pick his elbow up. I'm going to sit up tall. I'm going to attach his elbow to my chest. My elbow is attached to my ribs. And I'm just going to look over my shoulder and turn. I get myself to a seatbelt side control. I get that seatbelt and I see that his hand's nice and close. So I reach out and I snatch it. And I lock my own figure 4. Okay, I lock my key lock up. I attach his arm nice and tight to his body. Once I'm ready to move forward, I'm going to loop my left elbow out in front of his head. I'm going to step my left leg up. And I'm going to use it to turn myself 90 degrees as I bring my elbow from in front of his body to on top of his body. So my right elbow's on his rib cage now. I'm going to pinch his head nice and tight. Hey, if his chin's ever up and you can get your thigh on his chin, don't forget about your Mortal Kombat. Most good guys are going to tuck their chin. They know that head scissors is there. I'm going to start to sit back, but I'm not just trying to lift his hand straight up in the air. Okay? As I sit back, I'm going to lift his hand forward away from his body. I'm going to lift his hand, I'm going to rip his hand to my left. I kick it behind his body. I start driving it down to the floor. I keep it tight and I look. Okay? It's not my arms doing the work. It's my torso doing the work. It's my head. So I got myself in a seatbelt side control. I've locked up my hands and I see the opportunity that I can snatch out his wrist. I snatch up his wrist. I grab my own wrist. So my right arm is under his elbow. My left arm is under his head. My left arm is grabbing his wrist. And my right hand is grabbing my wrist. Again, I'm going to use my left elbow. I'm going to loop around. I'm going to bring my right elbow out. I'm going to loop my elbow off from in front of his ribs to on top of his ribs. So I'll bring my head towards his head to take the weight off my right leg. I bring my head towards his head. I step over. I bring my head back. And I can bring my other leg over. I'm going to sit to my butt, keeping my key lock. And now I'm going to let go of my key lock. I'm going to bring my right arm elbow deep to his wrist. And I'm going to connect his wrist and forearm to my chest. So I go from a key lock, I dive deep, so I catch his wrist with my elbow, I bring his forearm to my chest. And now I pinch my knees as I fall back and hit my armbar. So I'm in seatbelt and I see the opportunity to grab his top wrist with a key lock. I'm going to loop my hands around his head. I'm going to use my elbow to frame his head down and bring my other elbow onto his rib cage. So I've got downward pressure while I'm pulling that arm. I bring my head towards his head so I can step my right leg over his body. I'm going to bring my head towards his hips so I can step my left leg over his body. I'm going to fall to my butt, and I do not fall to my back. I'm going to scoot my butt away. I'm using my feet, my butt cheeks like feet. I pick one up, I step behind the other. I pick the other one up, I step behind the other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm dragging him to his back. My right hand is going to grab his bicep. My left hand is going to reach underneath his arm. I'm going to connect his wrist to my elbow, and I'm going to bring his wrist to my chest. So I have his whole forearm locked on my chest. I'm going to fall towards his head. I'm going to break his arm into the open space. My heels curl my butt, my knees pinch together, and I break his wrist into the open space by my hip, not flat down to my chest. All right. Thanks for swinging through Strangle School. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. This time and every time, thank you for being here.